Okay, so I decided to pick a topic that is relatively straightforward and sort of applicable to everyone these days, which is smartphones and technology. So the topic is, with the rapid development of communication technology, such as smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices, some people believe that the disadvantages outweigh advantages. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So this is how I'm going to format my essay. Most of the time, I would only have 2 body paragraphs, but that sort of depends on what the question is asking. So in this instance, the task has asked me, to what extent do I agree or disagree with the given opinion? So I have to address it by having a 3rd body paragraph on top of the advantages and disadvantages. Right, so let's get back to the question. Excuse me. In my head, I already see 3 things that the task is asking for. So advantages, disadvantages, and my opinion. So that automatically gives me an indication of what my 3 body paragraphs are going to focus on. Okay, so do you guys find that you're always stuck with the introduction, or that you go back to erase it later on once you finish writing so that it matches with your body paragraphs? Okay, so this is why I always start with the body paragraphs first. The introduction is like an umbrella, so it covers all your arguments written within the essay. And it's very important because it summarizes your main points. So the first thing that the examiner sees is that you're answering the whole task. And so, like I said, it's very important, and we'll come back to it later. Okay, so body paragraph 1. I'm going to start with the advantages, even though you can start with the disadvantages as well. It doesn't really matter as long as you compare the both of them. It's just a personal preference because I like starting with the positives and then outlining the negatives later. So this is how I format all my essays, TEEL. Now the reason why you want to format your essay this way is so that you develop your answer gradually, like adding layers, so that you tackle the first marking criteria, which is task response. And then you also tackle the second criteria, which is cohesion and coherence. So by following a set structure, you minimize the risk of going off topic, and so you develop one idea very clearly. And that one idea, again, relates to that rubric, that criteria, cohesion and coherence. Okay, so the structure goes topic sentence, explanation, example, and then link. I normally start with the example. Why? Because without the example, you can't prove your point. And do you guys ever write a paragraph halfway and then get stuck because you can't back it up? Okay, so that's why we begin there. Alrighty, so I think to myself, what is an advantage of communication technology these days? And this is what I wrote. For instance, mobile phones and tablets have enabled popular applications like Skype to be used these days to connect face-to-face virtually with friends, family, or business partners, no matter if next door or in Europe. I use well-known facts like Skype or brands like Nike, for example, because 90% of the time, the marker will have either used it before or heard of it before. And so it helps justify a very good point. Okay, so now let's get back to the topic sentence, and keep in mind to answer the task question directly. This is very important. So I've said, on one hand, the proliferation of social media and teleconferencing tools have drastically improved long-distance communication. Do you guys see how my topic sentence here also directly relates to the example? Now, when you are reading a magazine or even a newspaper, the paragraphs are giving you a break. So when you begin one, you want to start strong and by emphasizing your point. So think of your topic sentence like a title. You want to make it as clear as possible to the marker because it is the first thing they read in the paragraph. The clearer you make it, the faster it is for them to say, okay, this person has answered this part of the task. A lot of students make the mistake of saying it has a lot of advantages. What is it, and what are these advantages or disadvantages? You have to explain it as much as possible in one sentence because you only have 250 words to get your point across. So the best way to do this is to put it right at the start of the paragraph, hence the importance of the topic sentence. The next thing is the explanation. The explanation is essentially an expansion of your topic sentence. And again, this relates to the development of your argument. So it will strengthen your marks for task response. I personally see it as like a warm-up to your argument by almost describing what the example is, but not going into full detail. So what I've said is, With a few clicks of a button, speaking to people in other countries via portable devices is now possible. Again, do you see how it links to the topic sentence as if it is continuing, and then it continues on to the example? So the last part is the link, and it is pretty much like your topic sentence but at the end of the paragraph. Because it is the last thing that the marker reads for the paragraph, you want to repeat what your point is of the paragraph. So you basically say what you have said in the topic sentence, but change it slightly. So I said, with the way we socialize these days, there's no doubt how beneficial communication technology has been. I use keywords like beneficial because it's another word of saying advantages. So they understand that once again, I am talking about the advantages of communication technology and what they are. Do you guys see how the ideas flow from one sentence to the other and they slowly develop like layers? Okay, so if we look at the entire paragraph without all that fluff, this is what we have. Oh, it says one hand. It's supposed to say on one hand. Sorry guys. On one hand, the proliferation of social media and teleconferencing tools have drastically improved long-distance communication. With a few clicks of a button, speaking to people in other countries via portable devices is now possible. For instance, mobile phones and tablets have enabled popular applications like Skype to be used these days to connect face-to-face virtually with friends, family, or business partners, no matter if next door or in Europe. With the way we socialize these days, there is no doubt how beneficial communication technology has been. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the second paragraph where we will be discussing the other part of the task, which is disadvantages of communication technology. Now we're going to be using the same formatting as well. Topic sentence, explanation, example, and link. My example is that communication technology is causing antisocial behaviors. So I'm going to be talking about things like phones and gadgets, and like gadgets like iPhones, tablets, etc. So what I've written is, for example, applications only specific to mobile phones and tablets like Instagram and WhatsApp have fostered habits like cyberbullying and social detachment, especially amongst teenagers. Right, so now we're going to go back to the topic sentence again. We have to remember to get straight to the point of what the disadvantages of communication technology are, and at the same time link it to our example. So what I've written is very simple. I wrote, on the other hand, the development of antisocial behaviors have arisen from the revolution of technology. Do you guys see the link of how I wrote antisocial behaviors in the topic sentence? And in my example, I've written about how it has resulted in cyberbullying and social detachment. Do you see how they link? So the explanation again is my warm-up to the example. My explanations are usually descriptions of my point, whilst the example is usually the fact, where I give you names, brands, etc., like Facebook, iPhone, Apple, Microsoft, that sort of thing, to justify my argument. So over here in my explanation I've written, our increased reliance on mobile devices is changing the way we communicate, from spending quality time together to connecting instantaneously. Again, I am building more layers from the topic sentence and leading you up onto the example. This way, again, we build on development of the task as well as our argument. Okay, so the last part is the link again, and this is where I paraphrase the topic sentence to re-emphasize what my point is to the marker, because it is the last thing they read in the paragraph, as I said before. So here I've written, it is these disadvantages that are causing people to feel that it has outweighed the benefits. If we take away all of that information and put the paragraph together, it will read as, on the other hand, the development of antisocial behaviors have arisen from the revolution of technology. Our increased reliance on mobile devices is changing the way we communicate, from spending quality time together to connecting instantaneously. For example, applications only specific to mobile phones and tablets like Instagram and WhatsApp have fostered habits like cyberbullying and social detachment, especially amongst teenagers. It is these disadvantages that are causing people to feel that it has outweighed the benefits. Woohoo! Last body paragraph. Okay, I actually format this a bit differently because you want your main points to be discussed as much as possible in the first two paragraphs, because more weight is given to those arguments as opposed to your opinion. Also, by this time you will most likely run out of ideas, time, and you want to keep your word count as close as possible to 250. So I take out the example because you've already made your points prior to this paragraph. Now you just want to basically give them your opinion. I then work out whether I agree that there are more disadvantages than advantages of communication technology. I disagree with the opinion, so that means I believe that it actually has more advantages. So I literally say that in my topic sentence. And I say, I completely disagree that the negative aspects of how communication technology has developed exceeds the positives. So for the explanation I wrote, compared to bad social habits that can easily be monitored by parents, technology has literally enabled us to make friends and stay in touch with family members on a global scale, whether via applications like Skype, Facebook, or FaceTime on our phones and tablets. Do you guys see how I have literally recycled what I've written in the first paragraphs where we talked about advantages? I'm just changing the words a little bit and changing the structure of the sentence, but I am emphasizing the same point. I'm talking about the apps. I am also talking about phones and tablets. By paraphrasing, you don't have to come up with even more ideas. By paraphrasing, you are actually emphasizing the same advantages, but just saying it differently. So this actually means that you are developing your idea even more and strengthening your argument. So you get points for task response. If you try to add more ideas in at this stage, you will run the risk of having too many ideas in one paragraph and bring your mark down for one of the marking criteria, which is cohesion and coherence. You'll probably also run out of time. With the last sentence, which is the link, I'm just going to keep it really short to re-emphasize what my point is. And I say, in this instance, the pros outweigh the cons by tenfold. So the third paragraph is nice and short, but it also answers the question thoroughly. So I wrote, I completely disagree that the negative aspects of how communication technology has developed exceeds the positives. Compared to bad social habits that can easily be monitored by parents, technology has literally enabled us to make friends and stay in touch with family members on a global scale, whether via applications like Skype, Facebook, or FaceTime on our phones and tablets. In this instance, the pros outweigh the cons by tenfold. Okay, now we can go back to our introduction. Woo! I promise you it will take you less than a minute now that we have the rest of our arguments planned out. Okay, so the first thing I always do is to literally just paraphrase the main argument, aka change the words. That's how simple it is. So the task says, with the rapid development of communication technology, such as smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices, some people believe that disadvantages outweigh advantages, blah, 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 blah. So I just change it around and I say, with the abundance of portable communication technology these days, there has been a lot of discussion that mobile phones, tablets, and other devices are producing more issues than benefits to society. Now I'm going to answer the second part of the question. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, if you guys remember what we've already done in the essay, we already know how to answer this. So we just say, I completely disagree with this opinion, as I believe that mobile devices have served more advantages than outweigh the disadvantages. That's all you have to say for the introduction, because you are literally just outlining and summarizing as quick as possible what the rest of your essay is going to be covering. So the conclusion is even more simple, but do not underestimate how important it is, because it is the last thing the marker reads before giving your mark out. So you just want to summarize and outline again what you've written above and repeat what your opinion is. This is very important because you just want to show them that you're answering the question. So I wrote, in conclusion, the points above have discussed both the advantages and disadvantages of communication technology. However, the vast improvements in how we interact from its development definitely exceeds its drawbacks. Right, so now we're going to look at the entire essay. I'm not going to read it out because you guys are going to be really sick of my voice, but you guys can just pause it there and have a look by yourself. But I just wanted to point out the importance of structuring your essay properly and having that formatting. So the question has asked us for advantages of communication technology. Do you guys see how it is already addressed in that first sentence of the paragraph where that topic sentence is? The task also asks us for the disadvantages, and look how it is literally the first sentence of that second paragraph, and it is telling you what the disadvantages are, which is antisocial behaviors. The third thing that the question is asking us is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? And this has been covered in that third paragraph where it is again the first sentence, aka the topic sentence, but it is also outlined in the introduction and the conclusion. So you keep emphasizing the same point to the marker, what your position is. Right, so if you guys look at the essay, each of the paragraph has one central topic, and it also answers the requirements of the task in sequence. Advantages, disadvantages, and to what extent do you agree or disagree? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is again a major component of the cohesion and coherence marking criterion, where information and ideas show a logical progression. So it means there's like a slow development basically. Remember how I also talked about developing your paragraphs in layers? Then that's where we have the TEEL, the topic sentence, explanation, example, and link. So this is another way of displaying logical progression of ideas because you are slowly developing them. And that also adheres to the first marking criterion, which is task response. So one thing I hardly talk about throughout this video is the other two criterions, which are lexical resource and grammatical range and accuracy. Because those are things that you need to develop over time in your own practice. It's not something I can just teach you in terms of formatting. One good way to show off your lexical resource though, which just means vocabulary, is to change your words up as much as possible. So don't keep repeating words like good or bad 50 times throughout the essay. You want to keep changing it up. So for instance, in this essay, the sample, the word advantages was used in many different ways. So do you guys see how I have written benefits, improved, beneficial, positives, pros, improvements? And disadvantages was also used differently, and so is communication technology. So by doing simple things like this, it gives you a bit more of a boost with lexical resource. Grammatical range and accuracy is more about displaying different sentence types in the essay, so from more simple to more complex. And they are also marking you on how many grammatical errors there are throughout the task. So basically just be careful with what tenses you use, like past tense, past present, I don't know what the others are, but yeah, just be mindful of those.